Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel, Literature in Rows with Jared. We're going to do this another time. Today we're going to be reviewing a trilogy that I have read. Boy, I've been doing a lot of reading lately.
But he definitely has huge ego.
Right after I finished reading Impossible Times, I started picking up a new series by the author Jay Kristoff, who's a new author for me, the Nevernight Chronicles, and it's a trilogy, Nevernight, Godsgrave, and Darkdawn. Fits into the grim dark fantasy category. So the first book begins really in a dark place, and it's interesting. You kind of get this past and then past present telling of the story through the first book. And so you kind of get this grasp of history of the main character, Mia Corvere, and this whole fantasy is basically kind of a retelling of historical events that took place in Italy. This book is based on a lot of that. The author is very familiar with Italy, and I've noticed that a lot. You see that in authors like George R.R. Martin, who borrows a lot from English and Celtic, Scottish history. Jay Kristoff concentrates on Italian history. There's other authors. Scott Lynch from Lives of Locke Lamore appears to be into Italian history as well, or that you can certainly see that in the telling, even though the worlds that these authors build are pretty wide open and pretty new. In this particular series, the world is very fascinating. On a different planet. I say that because there are 3 suns in this solar system. One is a red giant, one is a blue dwarf, and a white dwarf. There's a full day that they have full light, and then they have full dark. Certain of these suns will be in the sky. The land is very cruel and harsh, especially with if all 3 suns are in the sky shining down on this world, then it's a really hot place. Sometimes the red star is the only one in the sky, and so you can imagine it kind of tints in red. So it's a clever way to tell a story. You get unique lighting, you can create some interesting environments. The main character, Mia Corvere, is a young girl who has gone through some tough times. She is a very strong character. She comes through as very, very powerful. A lot of horrible things happen. Again, it lends itself to the grimdark category of just putting people through real trials and tribulations. It's kind of a trope in fantasy where, there's a school and people learn how to become a wizard or an assassin or something like that. And this is very much a story about assassin fantasy. I guess that's a subgenre. Assassins often find themselves in their position because of something that was done to them in their past. Revenge becomes very much a part of their life, and seeking vengeance over those that have wronged them is a common theme in a lot of assassin fantasy, and this is no different. So Nevernight kind of picks up, you find out who this main character is, who surrounds her friends, and you end up going into the school where they learn to be assassins. And it's kind of like a Big Brother kind of thing, where as you go along, the assassin training whittles itself down to so many. And that's kind of the theme of the book. It's nothing new, but the telling of the story is really great. Next! The second book, Godsgrave, moves from that school of learning of how to be an assassin into the world of gladiators. The environment from story to story levels up a little bit. So we've gone from a school where there's testing to a gladiator ring and in the final book, all of this stuff kind of comes and compiles itself into one third environment where it finalizes everything. The ending was great. I read these books back to back to back. They were all fantastic. I was looking for something that would just kind of grab me a little bit more than some of the reads I'd been doing. Some of them were real classic fantasy or kind of science fiction-y titles. I needed something really gritty. And as soon as I started reading about this Mia Corvere character, it really grabbed me. Jay Kristoff has a great prose. He is similar to Abercrombie. I've watched some interviews with him. He does lend from certain authors. I think Anne Rice is another one of his favorites. A lot of authors do get that feel from other writers, and he did really good. The first book, Nevernight, just grabbed me. I went all the way through it. Characters, plot, the ending, the story, the world, everything was fantastic. 5 out of 5 for Nevernight. Godsgrave, awesome. It really took a dark turn. It didn't have the second book blues. It had stronger characters.
Buffed, beautiful, and bitchin'.
It built up this world. The secondary characters felt very well fleshed out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
A good read. At times there were moments in the reading as you go along how things get really dark, because vengeance really takes a toll on the person who's trying to mete out this vengeance to other people. So it can be a little dark. There are other aspects in the writing that, just to be fully transparent, there's a lot of highly sexualized content. Reads like a forum article where it's very graphic. If you're into things like that, it's
You're going to want to know what it tastes like.
He did well with trying to keep the information fresh, keeping you up to speed, although I didn't need to do that. And then the last book, it's basically the culmination of all this training, all of these friends, and they go off and try to finalize, and obviously it's a book of vengeance, so we need to know if there is going to be vengeance that occurs. One thing that I did want to touch on while I was reading this is, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced it, but sometimes you'll be reading, and it's just got you so wrapped up in it that you have to take a little glass or a drink, or not let your eyes leave the page, and eating and all that stuff. So it was one of those. It definitely gripped me. Jay Kristoff is a great writer.
The sportos and motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Gnarly, really gets in the weeds there. There is a little bit of magic. I mean, this is a fantasy book. I don't want to get into it too much, but it seemed really well established. The suns play a part in this. There's a light and a shadowed magic. It's very creative. Again, it's not one of those fire, water, air, spirit, classic magic, but it's kind of there. It serves its purpose. It's not too much in the forefront, and it's not way back in the back. It actually really enhances her character and her attributes. Makes for a very fascinating character to really get behind and try to figure out. Some of the drawbacks of these books would be, well, sometimes, as you have your heroes that are going through their adventures, are they gonna get hurt?
I'm invincible!
Sometimes the author can paint these guys into a corner and somehow they still get out of it. It kind of confuses me sometimes, like, whoa, my gosh, did we really have to go that far to kind of make this happen out of it? It's not that extreme, but there are a few times where I was just like, wow, how did they survive that, and why did they survive that? Another aspect of the reading too that kind of keeps you on your toes throughout all the books is that you never quite know who to trust, because a lot of the characters are assassins. The plot twists in these books are great. It's not a straightforward read. As soon as you think you have a character figured out, boy, Jay Kristoff kind of flips it on you, and your assumptions, you can find out you're pretty wrong about them. And if you think back and look back in the book, the clues were dropped in there. So it wasn't a complete and total surprise.
Oh man, you're gonna get a surprise. You're gonna get such a surprise.
But at the time of reading, it sure did feel like that. So good surprises.
Surprise!
Good plot twists. Great character work. One of the major things that stands out with a lot of readers in these trilogies is there's a footnote. Jay Kristoff uses footnotes, and it's equally a good thing as well as kind of a challenging thing. The good part of it is I'm sure Jay Kristoff saved himself tens of hundreds of pages having to explain history and past and perhaps other events that kind of round out the story, but it's a footnote like you would in a history book or something like that. If you want a little added information, that's where it is. You don't have to read the footnotes, but you do find out that the footnotes do play a part. There is something important about them by the further into the books, so I don't want to spoil any of that, but the footnotes can be important. One of the drawbacks ever since I've read this, and I thought it was a creative way to tell a story, to use as footnotes. However, in subsequent books that I've read since reading the Nevernight Chronicles, there have been moments where I'll look at my reading and I'll see little quotation marks or something, and my brain tricks me into thinking it's an asterisk where I have to go down and look at the bottom of the page. And there's no other books that I've read since then that have footnotes in them, but apparently I'm still reading it as though they are. So I want to thank you for that, Jay, giving me the old asterisk bug in my head now, and I gotta try to navigate through reads going, oh wait, is that a... Nope, that's just the end of a sentence. I don't know. My eyes. Who knows? These eyes. Anyway, yes. So the last final book I would say is a 4.9 out of 5, just because I thought the ending could have been slightly different. It was completely satisfying, but me as a reader, I'm always going to have my own little nitpicky things.
So suck on that!
I'm going to find a few things that I didn't like. I think mainly, again, it kind of goes back to that whole, geez, this main character is just indestructible, and so are all the people that... I don't want to get too far into it, but it's just... It kind of drops into you a little from moment to moment, even though it's a good story, and you want all your main characters to survive in the end. But in a way, it's like, this is grimdark. Why can't you just take them away? As a series on the whole, all 3 of these books... I would give it 4.95 out of 5, just because I had a couple 4.9 in there. It's basically a 5. I really enjoyed the read. It's gritty. It's got a lot of bad language. It's kind of sexy. It's kind of dark. It's got some good vengeance. Kick-ass female character that just blows through people. Clever storytelling, clever use of plot devices, plot twists. Overall, it's just a great story. So if you don't mind having a little cussing, a little sexuality, some of it kind of crosses into those LGBTQ aspects, but nothing incredibly unnerving. I don't know. I think it's completely fine. It's just a story. There's no one trying to say some sort of subliminal message underneath all of this. So
just chill out.
I really, really enjoyed all of this. I highly recommend this trilogy. Jay Kristoff also is doing Empire of the Vampire, and Empire of the Damned just came out. I just recently got myself an autographed copy of the Empire of the Damned, so I'm looking forward to reading those. I'm going to take a little bit of a Jay Kristoff break, because I like to intersperse my dark and gritty with some other stuff. But I will be doing some other reviews coming up, finishing up The Expanse. So I'll be doing a review about that. I have picked up a memoir book, and I've also got another book that came out recently. It was the second book in a trilogy. So stay tuned for further book reviews coming up in the future. So with that, yes, I'd say go pick up Nevernight. Pretty exciting, pretty graunchy, good. Go get them read. But with that, I'll let you guys go. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and remember, keep reading. Well, hello folks, back again. Try this again, and